Pull into my parking spot and notice my brother's truck in the visitor space. That's weird. He lives 40 minutes away and never just drops by. I grab my bag, lock my car, and tell myself it's nothing. Maybe he was in the area. Maybe he wanted to surprise me. We're close enough for that. Or we were, anyway. My apartment is on the 3rd floor. I take the stairs like I always do. I'm still thinking about the meeting I just sat through for 2 hours that could have been an email. I'm tired in that specific way where your shoulders feel like they're made of concrete and your eyes are dry no matter how many times you blink. I put my key in the lock. The door swings open and I step inside and I stop. I know that feeling. The one where your brain sees something but refuses to process it. Like a loading screen that just keeps spinning. I stood there for a full 5 seconds, maybe more, just staring at my living room. My dining table is gone. Not moved, not pushed to the side, gone. The 4 chairs that went with it, gone. The custom console table I had built by a local carpenter in Asheville when I drove up there for a weekend trip 2 years ago, gone. The mirror that hung above it, the one I found at an estate sale in Charleston, and drove back with wedged in my back seat because I was terrified of scratching it, gone. There's a rectangle of slightly cleaner hardwood where the table used to sit. You can see the exact outline of it in the dust pattern on the floor. I set my bag down very slowly, like I'm handling something fragile. My dining room set cost me $11,400. I saved for 14 months to buy it. I researched it for 3 months before that. It's solid white oak, hand-finished, from a small furniture maker based out of Vermont. I didn't buy it to show off. I bought it because I eat dinner at that table every single night. I set a real place for myself, a cloth napkin, a proper glass, because I live alone and I refuse to eat standing over my sink like my life is a waiting room. I walk through the rest of the apartment in a daze. My bedroom is untouched. The bathroom is fine. But in the living room, the throw blanket my grandmother knitted me is missing from the arm of my couch, and the framed print above the bookshelf, the one I bought at an art market in New Orleans, is off the wall. The nail is still there. Just the nail, pointing at nothing. I call my sister first because she's the one I call when something is wrong. She picks up on the second ring and I say, "Did something happen at my apartment today?" And she says, "Oh, so you're home." That's when I know. My name is Zoe. I'm 31 years old. I'm a project coordinator for a mid-sized construction firm, which means I spend my days managing timelines and budgets and personalities that don't always want to cooperate with each other. I'm good at it. I'm organized. I plan things out. I bought that dining set with a savings account I opened specifically for it. I labeled it in my banking app, Dining Room Fund. I contributed to it every single paycheck for over a year. I live alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in Raleigh, North Carolina. The 2nd bedroom is my office. I work from home 3 days a week, and I have it set up exactly the way I want it. A decent desk, a comfortable chair, good lighting. I'm not wealthy. I'm not struggling. I've just always been careful with money in a way that took me years to figure out how to do, mostly by teaching myself through books and online resources, and a lot of trial and error. My parents are retired. My dad worked in logistics. My mom was an office manager for a dental practice for 26 years. They live about 25 minutes from me, in the house where I grew up. My younger brother lives with them. He's 27. He works at a sporting goods store part-time. He's been figuring things out for the better part of 5 years. My parents don't push him on it. They never really have. I don't say this with bitterness. I'm trying to just tell you the facts as they are. My brother is not a bad person. He's funny, and he's easy to be around, and he can fix almost anything mechanical. He just has never been expected to push himself in the same way I was, and he's settled into that the way water settles into the shape of whatever container it's in. My parents made the container, he just filled it. I have been the other kind of container, the one that holds its own shape. The key I gave my parents to my apartment was for emergencies. I gave it to them 3 years ago when I had a minor procedure done and needed someone to check on my cat for a few days. My cat passed away last spring, but I never asked for the key back. It felt like an accusation. Like I was saying, I don't trust you, and I did trust them. I did. My sister tells me, over the phone, that Mom and Dad took the table. They took it for Corey, she says, and she sounds uncomfortable. She should sound uncomfortable. Corey is my brother. He's been eating on a folding table in his room, she continues. You know how Mom is. She saw your dining set when she came by last month and she thought it would look nice in his space. She thought it would look nice in his space. She said you don't really use it that much. I stood in the middle of my hollow dining room and said, "What?" She said you're always eating at your desk or on your couch, and you only use the table when people come over, and Corey could use it every day, and… She watched me eat dinner at that table when she visited. I said, 6 weeks ago, she sat across from me. Silence. Where are the chairs? I said. It wasn't even a question. It just came out flat. At Corey's. The mirror too, I think, and the console. How did they even move it? That table weighs 200 pounds. They rented a truck. Dad and Corey's friend Jake did the heavy lifting. I sat down on my kitchen floor. I don't know why. My legs just bent, and I ended up there, back against the cabinet, phone against my ear. She took my grandmother's blanket, I said. Another silence, longer this time. She said she didn't think you'd notice, my sister said, very quietly. I would have laughed if I could have found the shape of a laugh anywhere in my chest. She didn't think I'd notice. $11,000 of furniture and a hand-knitted blanket that belonged to a woman who has been gone for 8 years, and she didn't think I'd notice. I did not call my mom that night. I know that surprises some people when I tell this story, but I've known my mother for 31 years, and I know how that call would have gone. She would have had an answer for everything. She would have been patient and reasonable and completely immovable, and I would have ended up apologizing for the tone of my voice. Instead, I opened my laptop, and I looked up property law in North Carolina. What my mother did has a name. It's called theft. The fact that she's my mother doesn't change the legal definition. She entered my home, using a key I gave her for emergencies, and removed approximately $11,800 worth of my personal property without my knowledge or consent. The blanket alone has enormous sentimental value. The print from New Orleans. I hadn't even tracked down yet when I did my initial mental inventory. I found out later she took that too. I took photographs of every empty space, the clean rectangle on the floor, the bare nail on the wall, the spot where the console had been with its ghost outline in the dust. I emailed them to myself with the date and time. I pulled up my receipts. I keep digital copies of everything in a folder in my email labeled big purchases. The dining set, the console, the mirror, I had receipts for all of it. Team stamped, itemized, showing my name in my card and my address. Then I called my sister back and I said, I need to know exactly when they did this. She told me it was that morning, while I was at my 9 o'clock stand-up meeting, while I was reviewing a site plan, while I was eating a granola bar over my keyboard and answering emails. My parents and my brother and his friend Jake were renting a truck and carrying my dining room out of my apartment. My mother had planned this. She had thought about it, decided on it, arranged the truck, coordinated with my brother, picked a day when she knew I'd be gone. She had a key. She had a plan. She walked into my home and helped herself to what she'd decided she deserved to give away. I called her the next morning. I had slept maybe 3 hours. I had notes in front of me. She picked up and said, Zoe, I was going to call you tonight. I need you to listen to me, I said. Please don't talk until I'm finished. She was quiet. I think the tone surprised her. I have never spoken to my mother in a tone like that. I am the one who smooths things over. I am the one who changes the subject at holidays and lets things go and swallows what I actually want to say because it doesn't feel worth the fallout. You entered my apartment without my permission, I said. You removed $11,800 worth of furniture and personal property. You also took a blanket that belonged to Grandma Ruth. I need all of it returned to my apartment within 48 hours. She started talking. I let her go for about 20 seconds before I held the phone away from my ear because I already knew what she was saying. She was saying Corey needed it more. She was saying I'm young and I'll get new things. She was saying she's my mother, and she raised me and she thought I would understand. She was saying family. She was saying we share. She was saying she didn't think it would be such a big deal. When she paused for breath, I said, 48 hours. If the furniture isn't back, I'm filing a police report. Complete silence. Then you would call the police on your own mother. I would report stolen property to the police, I said. Yes. Zoe. Her voice shifted into something lower, something that has made me cave my entire life. You're being dramatic. It's furniture. Corey is your brother. We're a family. Families help each other. Families ask, I said. They don't take. She told me I was selfish. She told me I had always been difficult, that ever since I moved out, I acted like my things were more important than the people in my life. She told me that Corey had been having a hard time, that he was struggling, that as his older sister, I should want to help him. She reminded me that she and my dad had paid for my college. She brought up the car they helped me buy at 22, which I paid them back for over 18 months. But facts are flexible when someone is trying to win an argument. 48 hours, I said again. I love you. 48 hours. I hung up. My hands were shaking. I made coffee and stood at my kitchen window and watched a pigeon on the fire escape of the building across the street and thought about how I had just said, I love you and meant it, and set a deadline and meant that too, and both things were true at the same time. And that is the most exhausting thing about family. You can love someone and still draw a line. You can love someone and refuse to let them walk through you. 48 hours passed. Nothing came back. What arrived instead, over text, was a relay of family opinions. My aunt texted me to say she heard what happened, and she thought I should be more understanding. Corey was going through a rough patch, and what was I going to do with all that furniture anyway? Sitting there in my fancy apartment, my dad sent me a text that said, Your mother is very hurt. Please think about how this looks. How this looks. As though the problem was optics. My brother texted me too. It's just furniture, Zoe. Chill out. I did not chill out. I found the non-emergency line for the Raleigh Police Department and I called it. I explained what happened. That I had loaned a key to family members for emergency access. That they had used that key to enter my home and remove property without my consent. That I had documentation of ownership for all the items and documentation of when the entry occurred. The officer I spoke to asked me several questions. He was calm and professional and did not seem at all surprised by the situation. He told me that what I was describing did meet the legal definition of theft, and that if I wanted to file a report, I was absolutely within my rights to do so. I said I did want to file a report. He gave me an appointment. I texted my mother, I have an appointment to file a police report on Friday. I'm letting you know as a courtesy. There is still time to return my property. She called me within 4 minutes. This time her voice was different. Not the soft, low manipulation voice, not the wounded mother voice, something harder underneath it. You are serious, she said. I've been serious, I said. If you do this, she said, I don't know how we come back from it. And I felt something shift inside me, something that had been held in place by 31 years of wanting her to be proud of me, of adjusting myself to avoid conflict. Of eating dinner at a table I bought myself and being grateful and trying to be good enough. Mom, I said, you walked into my home and took $11,000 of my things. You took Grandma's blanket. You planned it ahead of time. You didn't call me, you didn't ask me, you didn't even leave a note. You did it while I was at work so I couldn't stop you. And now you want to talk about how we come back from it? She was quiet. I didn't take anything from you, I said. You chose to take from me. That's the difference. She hung up. The furniture was back in my apartment by Thursday morning. I know because my downstairs neighbor texted me that there was a moving truck outside, and she wanted to make sure I knew about it. I came home during my lunch break. Everything was there. The table, the 4 chairs, the console, the mirror. They'd put it back mostly in the right places, though the console was 6 inches off from where it had been. And one of the chair legs had a small scuff on it that wasn't there before. The blanket was on the table, folded. The print from New Orleans was leaned against the wall, not rehung. I checked every piece for damage. I photographed everything. I made a note of the scuff. Then I sat down at my dining room table, and I ate the lunch I brought home from the sandwich place near my office, and I let myself feel whatever I was feeling, which was a combination of relief and grief, and something I can only describe as tired victory. I didn't cancel the police appointment. I went and I explained that my property had been returned. The officer noted it. He also told me, without any prompting from me, that given the value of the property and the circumstances, if it happened again, I should come back immediately and the case would likely be taken much more seriously. I thanked him, and I drove home, and I changed my locks. I ordered a lockbox for the building entrance as well, because I found out, during a very uncomfortable conversation with my building manager, that my mother had asked the front desk about my access code twice before the day they came. Twice. She had been planning this for longer than I thought. The front desk had not given her the code, but the information that she'd asked sat in my stomach like a stone. A lot of people, when I tell this story, ask me about my brother. They want to know what I said to him, whether he apologized, what happened to our relationship. Corey texted me again after the furniture was returned. He said, "I didn't know she was going to take the good stuff. I just asked if she knew anyone getting rid of a table." I sat with that for a long time. He just asked. She decided. He just asked, and then he and his friend Jake carried $11,000 of my dining room into a moving truck on a Tuesday morning while I was at work. I texted him back, "I know you didn't plan it the way she did, but you knew it was mine, and you didn't call me." He said, "I figured she asked you." I said, "You figured wrong, and you didn't check." That was 3 months ago. We haven't spoken since. I don't know where we go from here. I used to think Corey was the one person in my family who was just neutral. Not against me, not really for me. Just floating in the middle. What I understand now is that floating in the middle, when someone is taking from you, is not neutral. It's a choice. You just get to pretend it isn't. My mother and I are not in contact. My dad calls me once in a while and leaves voicemails that are careful and short and don't mention any of it. I haven't called him back yet. I'm not sure what I want to say. I love my father, but love doesn't require me to act like nothing happened. I've eaten at my dining room table every single night since it came back. I set a real place. Cloth napkin, proper glass, sometimes candles. I sit there, and I eat something I made, and I look at the room around me. The room I chose. The furniture I saved for. The print back on the wall in the right spot this time. And I think about what it took to stay in that seat. Not to shrink. Not to apologize. Not to say fine, keep it. I don't want to make things difficult. Difficult is not the problem. Difficult is sometimes just what honest looks like. My grandmother's blanket is back on the arm of my couch. I sat under it last week while I watched a movie, and I thought about her. She was not a soft woman, my grandmother. She was sharp and funny, and did not let people treat her like she was optional. She would have had something very pointed to say about all of this. I think she would have also told me I waited too long, that I let myself be the easy one for 31 years because it felt safer than being the difficult one. And she probably would have been right. But I'm learning. 31 is not too late to figure out that your own home is yours to defend, that the people who love you should not need to be threatened with a police report before they return what was never theirs to take. That family is not a password that unlocks your things, your money, your space, your time. My locks are changed, my key is mine. And for the first time in a long time, when I walk through my front door, it feels like I actually live here. I keep thinking about the rectangle on my floor, that clean outline in the dust where my table used to be. It sounds like a small thing to fixate on, but it wasn't small to me. It was the shape of everything I had told myself about my own life. That I was building something real, that my choices mattered, that the home I made was actually mine. What my mother did wasn't an accident. That's the part I had to sit with the longest. She didn't borrow impulsively. She planned. She called about the truck. She picked a Tuesday. She knew my schedule. There is a cause and effect chain in every decision we make, and hers was deliberate from the first link to the last. And the effect, which she didn't see coming, was that I had finally become someone who would follow through. I think about who I was 5 years ago. I would have cried on the phone. I would have eventually said, "Fine, keep it. I just want us to be okay." I would have swallowed the loss because the alternative, being the difficult one, the dramatic one, the one who called the police on her own mother, felt worse than the loss itself. I had been trained very gently and over a very long time to believe that keeping the peace was my job, that my discomfort was negotiable and the family's comfort was not. What changed wasn't that I got angrier, it was that I got clearer. I looked up the law. I pulled my receipts. I took photographs. I wrote down the timeline. I stopped operating on feeling and started operating on fact. And what the facts said, plainly, was that someone had stolen from me. The relationship didn't change that. The word mother didn't change that. Clarity is its own kind of courage, knowing what is true and refusing to let someone else's narrative replace it. And then I had to do the harder thing, which was act. Not threaten and retreat, not give one more deadline and fold when it wasn't met. I made the appointment. I drove to the station. I sat across from an officer and said what happened out loud in plain language, and I did not apologize for being there. That took something I hadn't fully used before, a willingness to be uncomfortable in the short term so that my life could actually belong to me in the long term. Corey said it was just furniture. My aunt said I should be more understanding. My dad said to think about how it looks. Here's how it looks. I own a dining table. It is in my apartment. I eat at it every night. I set a real place for myself because I am a real person living a real life that I built, and no one gets to walk through my door and decide that what I have is more useful somewhere else. That's not selfishness. That's self-respect. And self-respect, I've learned, is not something people hand you. It's something you practice in the moments when it costs you something. When the person on the other side of the line is someone you love, when saying no feels like it might break something that can't be fixed. Sometimes it does break things. I won't pretend otherwise. But some things were already broken. I just couldn't see it until I stopped moving out of the way.